Hi everyone, my name is Brandon Oliveras with Co-Creation Coaching, and today I am discussing where you put your focus, whether you put your focus on the answer or on the question. And there are a few levels I want to discuss this topic on, and I know it's a little bit hard to understand right up front, but I will try to explain it. So in the law of attraction, there are basically two steps. Okay, the first step is asking the question, asking for what you want, putting your desire out there in the universe. And the second step is receiving it, is receiving the answer, receiving the manifestation, receiving the desired goal, the desired object, the desired experience. Now, what a lot of people do is that they perpetually focus on the question, okay? And as long as you're focusing on the question, you really cannot receive the answer because the question and the answer are never on the same vibrational level. So if you want to receive the answer, or if you want to receive a manifestation, you can't do so while focusing on the question. Now, what does it feel like to focus on the question? To focus on the question, it feels like incompleteness. It feels like what Abraham would call contrast. It feels like negative emotion. It feels like something is missing. It feels like lack. And to focus on the answer, it feels like the opposite of all of these. And it depends on what your desire is really for what the answer would be, but it feels like completeness, fullness, abundance, whatever your desire might be. It feels like what it would be like to have your desire. It can feel like joy, it can feel like peace, it can feel like appreciation, passion, enthusiasm, and all those other positive emotions. So, a lot of times when people think they're focusing on their manifestation, when they think they're focusing on, let's say, getting more money, or getting a relationship, or having a new job, or whatever it might be, they're actually focusing on the question. They're still asking, every day, asking, and they're never actually aligning with the answer. And as long as you're aligning with the question, you're going to get more of the question. You're going to get more of that lack. You're going to get more of what's missing or what you perceive to be missing. But what is actually the best is to ask the question, to feel that vibration of the question, and immediately switch over to the answer. And this works for both manifestations, it works for real questions you might ask the universe, and for a lot of other things. And I want to discuss this on a few different levels. So let's first talk about what everyone's interested in, manifestations. So with manifestation, let's say you want to get more money. Now, what's the question feel like? The question is, I want more money. Now, what's that question feel like? It feels like poverty. It feels like maybe fear over not having enough money. It feels like sometimes desperation. It just feels like wanting more, which isn't really a very, very nice feeling. So when we have those questions, if you keep aligning with that question of more abundance, more money, you're going to get more of asking for more money. You're going to get more lack. You're going to get more of those feelings of poverty and desperation and wanting more. Okay, but what you need to do is to focus on the answer. What's the answer? The answer is abundance. And it might come through money, and it might come through getting free things, it might come through discounts. There's so many things it can come through. But you need to feel the answer. You need to feel the abundance first. And I've talked about this so many times before, but I find that this paradigm is more useful for me anyway, so I'm sharing it. But you need to focus on the abundance, the answer to your question. And when you start focusing on that answer, on that abundance, on the fullness of having what you're asking for, then the universe will reflect that. The universe will bring you the answer. Like I said, the answer is never on the same level as the question. So you ask the question, more abundance, and then you switch to the answer of actually having abundance. Wanting and having. Wanting and having. Totally different things, right? So you switch to having, and you feel the having, you feel the answer of it, and you expect the answer of it. And pretty soon, sometimes within a few days, sometimes within a few hours, if you really have no resistance, the answer will come. You'll get some abundance. Okay, and that's how it works. And once it starts coming, then you have more of the answer, and the answer gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. You have something more to focus on. So let's say you focus on abundance, and you get, let's say something small like $20. And some people might, at first, say, oh, it's only $20. But that's the beginning of your answer. It's gotten bigger. You've manifested something. Or even if you might find a penny on the sidewalk, and you might write that off as just a coincidence. But again, that's the beginning of your answer. And so you start focusing on that and say, oh, look, I got part of my answer. My answer's starting to come. And you celebrate that and you say, okay, this is the beginning of my answer. Now I have something more to focus on, something more concrete to focus on to make me feel more excited. And then the answer gets bigger. And if it's the $20, it turns into $50 and turns into $100 and turns into $500, into $1,000, whatever it might be. But it gets bigger. And so that's how it works. The universe needs something to go on. It can't answer for you if you're not focusing on the answer yourself. And once you're focusing on the answer, then that vibration gets bigger and bigger and bigger within you and in your reality. Okay, so that's how that works. That's basically how manifestation works. It's asking and receiving. It's Jesus who said, whatever you ask for, believing that you have received it, you will be given it. Okay, and I totally just botched that verse, but that's okay. So that's how it is. You ask and you receive. And of course you have to believe that you will receive, but that believing is part of having the answer, focus on the answer. And you can see this on a second level here as prayer if you really want to. I don't like to focus on it that way, but some people do, so I'll mention it here. You know, prayer, a lot of people think prayer is asking God for something, right? Dear God, I want whatever. Could you please give me whatever, or please bless me, or whatever. And when you're praying like that, if praying is your thing, what are you focused on? Are you focused on the answer? Are you focused on having what you are wanting? Or are you focused on the question, on the prayer itself? Usually you're focused on the prayer, on the question. So it's the same thing with manifestation. Really effective prayer means putting your question out there. And it doesn't even have to be in words. It could just be in emotions. It could just be noticing, oh, I don't have as much money as I would like. That's a prayer. You don't have to sit down and voice your concerns or voice your desires, because that a lot of times can actually deepen your lackful vibration. It can strengthen it and bring more manifestations like it. So it's not always a good idea to go there and to speak like that. So what you want to do is just notice what it is you want, and that's the prayer. And you give yourself the answer to the prayer before God gives it to you. You give yourself the abundance, the feeling of it. Because God responds to feelings, not words. And if your feeling is lack, then you're going to get lack. And if your feeling is abundance, you're going to get abundance. So that's how you pray. You have the question, you notice what it is you desire, and then you align with the answer. And then it's answered. That's prayer. Ask and receive. And ask is a very short part of that. An essential part, obviously, but a very short part. And then you align with the answer. You feel the answer. I know a third level of this, a little more esoteric, is spiritual seeking itself. And it made me think of this because I started my spiritual journey when I was 9 years old, which was 18 years ago, because I'm 27 right now. And that whole time, when I was seeking, and I know a lot of people do this, I was focused on that seeking. I was focused on finding the answer. And as long as I was focused on finding the answer, I never quite found it. It was never quite enough. And I would switch from religion to religion to religion, from path to path to path, and there just was never the answer that I was looking for. It was never enough. It never quite fulfilled me. And what's the reason? We know this by what I'm already saying here, because I was focused on the seeking. I was focused on wanting to find the answer. But again, in law of attraction and manifestation, you create your own answers. I'm not saying you know what the answer is. I'm saying that you align with the answer. You feel the answer. You feel the fulfillment of the answer. And when I started doing that, everything shifted. Now I know the answer is within me. Now I know I have the answer. And the answer is never done. In any manifestation, the answer is never done. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger, just like the money example. So you're never, ever, ever there, wherever there is. You're never at the destination. But the difference is that in focusing on the seeking, you're only getting more questions. And in focusing on the answer, it's just always completing itself more and more and more. It reminds me of Socrates, who says, the only thing I know is that I know nothing, right? But that's focusing on the seeking. That's focusing on knowing nothing. And you get more of that. But if you focus on what you do know, if you focus on the answer, then the answer gets bigger. And finally, in a very practical sense, this really does work for real questions. And it kind of goes back to the prayer I was talking about. But a lot of times when I have a question for how I should go about something, or what I should name something I'm trying to do, or the best way to solve a problem, I literally just say, okay, universe, I want an answer to this. Or I'll say, I intend for the best answer for this question. And then I feel that, and then I drop it, and then I feel the answer. I feel what it'd be like to have the answer. And literally within sometimes hours, sometimes a day, sometimes a few days, if there's a little more resistance, I'll have that answer. An example would be last week, I'm working on this webinar series, which if you go to my website, you'll see about it. It's called Practical LOA. But I knew I wanted to do a webinar series where I demonstrated the principles of the law of attraction on a volunteer, where it'd be free for them, and then people could come and see how that worked. Okay, and I knew I wanted to do that. I was positive about that, but I didn't know how or what I wanted to call it. And I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I thought about it, and then finally I remembered, oh yeah, I can just ask. And so I put it out to the universe, what should I call this? And it was a little hard to drop it, because I'm like, I really don't know what I'm going to call this thing. So it took literally just forgetting about it for a few days. And then the other night I was just sitting there, and it just came to me, Practical LOA, because it's practical as we're showing how to apply these techniques in practical everyday situations. And it's the LOA. So it just came to me just out of the blue, and it was perfect. I felt the resonance of it. I felt it was the answer. And then once I had that, it just bloomed from there. So that's really a great example of how getting the answer works. And that's, you just ask the question, let it go, align with the answer, wait for it to come. You don't need to make it come. You don't need to effort. You don't need to try or anything like that. You just wait for it to come and know that it is coming. And that's really how all this works. So I hope that all makes sense. If you would like to have more videos like this, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Or you can visit my website at www.cocreationcoaching.org. Thanks, and have a great day.